Family-centered, Christian-based, grown in the heart of the Midwest. Talking to people from all walks of life.
The world needs more encouraging stuff, honest conversation. I always put my biblical spin on everything because that's my foundation. My name's Bubba. What is up?
We've been building, for it took us 14 months. Somebody told us that Disneyland took 12 months, so we beat Disneyland. Our contractor was great, the team was great, but there were just some hiccups nobody could foresee. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So we had this one week where it was like we were trying to visit homeschool co-op, so we're going all day. It's brand new. We're coming home. We're exhausted. I'm trying to process, what did we think about that one? Are we going to do it? Meanwhile, I've got to leave the door open for crews coming in and out. We stay up late on Wednesday night because the kids go to, we go to Wednesday night church, we eat dinner there, we go to our classes and stuff, and then the kids always want a fourth meal. I don't know if y'all's house was like that, but they're always starving because we ate dinner at 5.
Okay, yeah.
So we feed them again. We're in a new house, so we're trying, where's the bread, all that kind of stuff. Get everybody finally down. Then my husband Andrew and I stay up to put bar stools together because that's our full-time job now. It's like trying to get the house in order.
Okay.
And we finally fall into bed. I don't even know what time and just die because we're exhausted. And at about 1 a.m., I wake up and I'm like, what? Something's off, but I'm so tired. It's like I'm not thinking, well.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is like the bed's like wet, like right here by my head. And I'm like, what in the world? I lift the covers and our cat has had kittens in our bed. Yes, in the covers. Yes.
Oh.
So I mean, I can't even think. I've done nothing but problem solve for like months, and I'm like, what do you do with this? Like in the middle of the night. So I nudge Andrew, and his back's to me, like he's sleeping on his side, and he goes to kind of roll over to see why I'm waking him up. And I was like, don't roll over. Birdie has had her kittens in this bed. And he's so asleep, he's like, okay, I won't roll over. And he goes back to sleep. And I was like, no. You get up, like that's what I'm asking. So he gets up and he goes to get the box that I've made up for our cat. We get her and the cat moved, her and the kitten. And then I go and sit with her in the closet because I'm like, I don't want her moving somewhere else in the middle of the night. So I'm now a cat doula. I can't help Andrew, who is now, stripping the bed. And then he comes in there and he's like, where's our sheets? Like, where do we keep them? And I'm like, I haven't seen him come out of a box yet. So he's unboxing for sheets in the middle of the night. Yeah. So it was.
Wow. New house. Cat has kittens. Can't find anything. Oh, man.
Mm-mm.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the best, fastest growing real life sneak attack Christian podcast on the market. If you're new to the podcast, maybe you're only here today because of our guest, Hallie. I promise you're in the right place. God doesn't make mistakes. We're glad to have a chance to win you over and earn your support. We're trying to do something good here that is encouraging, entertaining, truthful, all at the same time. So let's get to it, shall we? Today's guest is a homeschool mom down there from Duck Dynasty country in West Monroe, Louisiana. This wife and mom is passionate about faith, family, but that's not all. She's also an accomplished author, speaker, podcaster, and founder of the Saltworks Ministries. She was married in college, pretty young. I like that. 3 kids under 4 at one point in time. That's a handful. They're all in elementary school now, though. That was in the past. And plenty of ups and downs in her life. So our guest today is sure to have one heck of a story to share. Hallie Dye, what is up, girl?
I would say not much, but it's been a lot.
That would be a lie. That would be a lie.
Yeah. Yes. We just moved. So getting settled and finishing up our first year of homeschool and getting ready to go to the beach tomorrow. So all kinds of great things.
Like local beach or vacation, we're traveling and going to the beach?
Yeah, vacation. It's not far. It's about 5 hours from where we are, but my parents have had a place at this beach for 30 plus years, so it's like home away from home.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, for my side of the audience today, who might not know you, quickly tell us a little bit about who you are, what your family looks like, and what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, I'm an accidental homeschool mom. We
Okay.
didn't really set out to do that. I never thought I would be doing that. This was our first year to kind of jump straight in, and we've really enjoyed it. I am married. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary.
Congrats.
Yes,
15. That
yes.
deserves an applause. Very
Thank you.
good.
Um, so that was fun. We slept away to the beach, just the two of us, so that's,
Nice.
I'm sure a rare occasion. And
Yep.
so that was fun. And we did just move into a home we've been building together for a long time. And I launched my first book last year. It's a motherhood book. I would say uprooting mom guilt and really meeting moms and some compassion and truth in some areas that I think we can naturally lack and bringing them back to the compassion of Christ.
What's the name of that book?
Didn't It's called You're Still a Good Mom,
Oh, I love
Motherhood
it.
Surrendered to the One Who Never Fails, even when you feel
Mm.
you have.
Oh, that is a long
So
tagline. I like it. I
it's
read
a
it. I
long
remember reading it.
tagline. Yeah. Yeah. The cover, I published with Moody Publishers and they helped me name it and that sort of stuff. And so the cover is kind of a play on the words, so it's kind of part of the design. But yeah, I think there's a lot of places in motherhood that we feel like failures. Maybe when nothing's even happened, you just kind of feel like a low simmer of failure in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Maybe expectations haven't been met. So that book was something I didn't really mean to write or set out to write. Through that, kind of began speaking at women's events.
Okay.
Again, accidentally. That's a large part of my story. I'm sure we'll get into, and then started a podcast, telling people's stories. A lot of local, but of course we branched out to many other people outside of
Yeah.
our hometowns. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of things that I do, but
Okay.
mostly it's motherhood.
Okay. So what do you guys do for an actual, what do you do to generate an income? You and your husband.
So my husband is a real estate agent with his brother.
Okay.
They're the Dye brothers, and that's their real estate name. And he made that jump into real estate 3 years ago. So amidst the book launch and starting homeschool, we've been in a season of change
Oh
for
man. Man.
about 3 years now. So it's been great, and it's been an adventure.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys like to do for fun?
Oh gosh.
When there's time to have fun.
Yeah.
We're not juggling something.
Well, I will say, like, it is, I obviously the baby years are so sweet, but now that everybody's in elementary school, my kids, I don't think I said this, are 10, 9, and 7 now. And so, like, I love the discipleship years that we're getting into. Obviously, bigger kids, bigger problems, but I love, like, having that connection with them that's harder to feel when they're younger,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so being able to play board games and, like, really get out in the yard and play games together as a family. But I mean, I love to paint and read. I read a lot of fiction for fun. But I mean, honestly, like when I say that my husband and I, like we laugh every day. He's the funniest person to me. So
Oh, that's
we have
good.
fun wherever we go.
That's good. I like it. That's good stuff right there. All right. Let's get into your story. Let's go back to the childhood. What was it like growing
Yeah.
up down there?
So I have to say, for the people who care, I'm actually in Monroe. So there's Monroe and West
Oh,
Monroe.
oh yeah,
We're
that's a
separated by a river. It doesn't really matter to me, but for some people, that's a
Oh,
distinction.
I've heard the distinction. Yeah. Oh man, I can't believe my
Uh,
research was off. How dare I?
no, no,
Oh,
no, no.
okay.
It doesn't bother me at all. It's kind of a funny rivalry, but honestly,
Yeah,
like West Monroe has stuff Monroe doesn't have, and vice versa. So I'm like, to me, it's all the same.
sure.
So, was born and raised in Monroe, Louisiana. I am the youngest of three, and so my sister's 8 years older. My brother's 5 years older. We don't feel like that now. We're close now. We all
Yeah.
live in town, and so. But I know there were times that it felt, spread out, and
Hmm.
we when I first got married, Andrew was like, we every time we go on a long drive, like you fall asleep, and I was like, I was conditioned to sleep in my car seat. Like I don't know what you
Yeah.
want from me. That's
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, had grew up in a Christian family. Just that was just always something I knew. We
Hmm.
we have actually been at the same church for my entire life,
Oh,
which
love it.
now my my father-in-law is the pastor of now. That's how Andrew and I met. And so, but yeah, I mean, just very blessed with a lot. Of course, we had some traumatic events as a family, but great parents. My dad's in oil, so we were financially secure.
Oh,
So it just there are so many great things I could say about it. I think being the third of older kids, you think you're ready to rule the world by 10 years old, like
yeah.
you're sure of your choices. I didn't care if my siblings were doing this. I was going to do this, and it didn't bother me that I was going to be different, or whatever. And I think there was a large part of that shaped, you know, a lot of my choices later in life,
Mhm.
and getting into college, maybe some of the crisis. I do think when I look back, having said all that, that I was a people pleaser in my friendships a lot as a kid. Even though I had great friendships, I think I had a hard time advocating and showing up for myself in ways that I like to joke now I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so, that's something I might write about at another date. But so anyway, so that's a lot about my childhood. Grew up dancing, which taught me a lot of you got to have all the shoes and all the things. There's a lot of moving parts. It's very disciplined, and I think I'm not really type A, so that was good for me to learn
Okay.
to have all my stuff together and have to
Okay.
say I can't go to that sleepover because I got to be at the studio early in the morning.
Oh
So
man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a competitive world from what I've seen of it. My goodness. But
Yeah, certainly
discipline for
can be.
sure. Okay. Was there any sibling rivalry when you guys were little? Do you remember that? Because my growing up, the more I talk
Yeah.
to people, how you grew up was normal to you. And then you start looking at other people, and like my boys have never had a knockdown, drag out fist fight, and they're only 2 years apart. Me and my brother were 3 years
Yeah.
apart, and we fought all the time. And I'm just like, everybody's childhood's different. So, did you guys have any like
hmm
rivalry, or was there friction, or were you guys really close knit?
We really didn't. I think we were far enough apart that like I was probably like
Yeah.
almost like a child to my sister. It's, like her
Yeah.
child at some points. Again, we don't feel like that now. I almost think like we have great communication now, but I almost think that was something we had to learn conflict like as adults because our worlds didn't cross as much as kids.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
we were together, but like we're in totally separate phases of life, so not
Yeah.
stepping on each other's toes or taking each other's clothes.
Yeah.
Now, we did used to sneak into my brother's room and sleep in his bottom bunk, and he did not love that.
Okay. There you
He
go.
did not want both of his sisters in there, but that's his story to tell.
Okay. And none of that, when you do get far apart like that, none of that. Hallie's talking to the parents, Hallie's the baby. Look at what you're doing for her that you didn't. Was there any of that? Like the baby favor treatment or whatever?
I'm sure I do know, like, I've heard someone say before, like, no two kids have the same parents. It doesn't matter how many
Oh,
kids you
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe you started a business when you had your second kid. So by your fourth, you're not pinching pennies as much or whatever. Or you figured out that, oh, we love this school over here. So like this kid's never switched schools, and so I think there's a lot of that with younger kids. I also think like with my sister, my mom was probably more apt to be like, we're not going to paint our fingernails blue, like, I mean, this was, 90s. And
Yeah.
like with me, she was like, she's got her own mind. So I'm going to pick my battles, which was also our temperament. So, I do think for sure a lot of birth order came into play. I
There we
never
go.
felt any resentment from my, siblings, but for sure, yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, it's going around my house right now. It just came up a memory that with our firstborn, I told my in-laws they were smoking at the time. They quit a long time ago, but they were smokers at the time, and I must have read in a book, bro. You don't hold a baby if you're a smoke. You don't smoke around the baby. If you've been smoking and it's in your clothes, you don't hold my. So I was like, you're not. You can't hold her. And it was. They didn't say anything then. I don't remember that it got out of hand, but now they make fun of me for it because yeah, by the time you have your fourth kid, I mean, it's like, don't even call me unless there's blood. I'm not getting out of my chair unless there's blood.
Yeah.
I don't care.
If the fourth one gets a cigarette, I mean, what are you going to do?
I've ate cigarette butts before. They pick one up. It ain't going to kill them. It's going to make them stronger.
That's right.
Oh, let's not test those theories, guys.
Yeah. By
But
the
that's
fourth one,
parenting.
you need a smoke break, so it's like,
Yeah. Okay. Let's move into like teenage, high school. What was that
Mhm.
like? Because this is where we're gonna differ. And I like talking to people because like I remember some of the kids that grew up in the church when I was in school, and that wasn't me. I was the farthest thing from it. So I love hearing from your
Mhm.
perspective like that. What was it like?
Yeah. So I went to a small Christian school from kindergarten to senior year. I'm at the same school
Okay.
again because my siblings started there. They went to other elementary schools, and then by the time they started, it's like, one drop off, kind of
Mhm.
situation. And so that's all I knew. And then again, coming from a Christian home, I would say very sheltered, but I use that word in a good way. Like
Okay.
we, very protected. Don't have any of the horror stories from sleepovers or any of those things, like
Mhm.
really can't thank my parents enough for being mindful of stuff. And now getting into middle school and high school, I was saved at a young age. I remember my mom walked me through it sitting on her bed one day when I was like, I feel like I'm missing something, like she kind of led me through like,
Yeah.
hey, like this is what it is. And so like I remember that. I've never like I can remember a time like maybe middle school where I kind of felt led to like rededicate my life in a sense. But I never questioned was my salvation, real. Now that I'm walking kids through that, I'm like, hey, the disciples did not know all that they were going to know about
No.
Jesus when they started walking with him. Like they still didn't understand it when he left, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And so that's okay. And so that's very much my story of like waking up to my of new understandings, but never questioning was that secure being that I went to a small Christian high school, like there was very like no drinking. You do not party at this school. Of course, people did, but they kept it under wraps. And I was kind of the legalistic, like rule follower. Hopefully, not outwardly as much as I, maybe in my head I was, but my friends, if they partied, they were not going to tell me about it, and I wasn't going to
Okay.
tell on anybody. But I do think there was a shift in the college years where I had to come off of some judgmental legalistic things that
Sure.
I mean, I view as protection when I was younger, but obviously needed to shift as I
Mhm.
got
Mhm.
older. I won't get too much into this, but my brother was in a very traumatic car accident when I was in fifth grade. And so he wasn't supposed to make it. It was very much a miracle that he lived. He's married and a father today, but he had a head injury and they were like, if he lives, he'll never be the same. And God, did what only God can do. And so I grew up watching my parents keep believing despite what anyone else told them, what
Sure.
science or medical professionals told them. And, just faithfully walking through things. And so that was very real. But I would say in college, so I went to LSU for college. I'm 3.5 hours from home. I'm not at my home church that I've grown up at. I have to want to get up and go to church or get involved in a small group somewhere, which I did. That's when your faith, not that it wasn't my own, but that's when you're like, this is a choice now. It's not just
Yep.
a habit,
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, really grew a lot. Like I said, like my world, I mean, you go to LSU's campus, like your world's wide open.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my goodness, like these are great people, even if they don't know the Lord or they're not living like I do or whatever. And that really began to change my worldview and my heart for people, and the difference between sin and sinners, like
Sure. Yep. Yep.
that whole thing. And so that was big. Now I will say I was probably always a fearful kid growing up. Like I did not, I, to this day, do not like scary movies. I was gonna plug my ears if somebody started telling a ghost story at a sleepover. Like that was not my jam.
Oh, wow.
But in college, I'm living by myself. Well, I have a roommate, but like I'm not, and I wasn't in a dorm. So like, I'm living on my own 3.5 hours from my family and had a situation one night. I don't know how much we want to get into this, but I went to drop Andrew off. He had been studying at our apartment, me and my roommate, and it was the night before the last day of finals, my first semester there. So I was 19 and went to drop him off at his apartment. I don't remember why he didn't have his car and came home and it's late, I don't remember what time, but probably 1 a.m. And I'm pulling in to my apartment and it was gated and I'm waiting for the gate to open. And there was a guy coming in behind me that just kind of gave me weird vibes. And a friend of mine's riding with us that was going to stay at our apartment that night. And I kind of made a comment and she was like, maybe don't stop at your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I've never told the
Mm-hmm.
story on a podcast, but so we like I drive past and there's a sister apartment situation, so I was able to like go into a different apartment complex, and he stopped following us. Well, so in a second, I'm like, okay, I think he's gone. So we go back. Well, he slams on his brakes at the front of the apartment complex and comes back. and basically like keeps driving back and forth past our apartment. Never seen this person in my life, don't know, never saw him again.
Yeah.
But it was just very jarring. And my roommate was like, hey, you need to call the police because whatever, which I am like, how long do we wait to call someone when something's on fire? Like, I am not quick to jump to dramatics at all,
Okay.
like sometimes to a detriment. And so I was like, okay, which sounded crazy to me. So I call Andrew, who now has his car, so he starts heading that way, and we call the police, and they come, and I just, again, I'm not. I keep waiting for someone to be like, this is a bit ridiculous, it's fine,
Sure.
whatever. And the police come, and so we kind of give them the story and stuff. And I tell him, what happened or whatever. And back up. So at some point, how we realized he was still out there is I kept hearing the same truck pipes go back and forth. And like I opened the window, and he was sitting there and like made eye contact, like wanted me to know, which that was the scariest part to me. Because I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh man.
what, I don't know. And so, and he seemed older than college. So all of that was just unsettling because this is like a college apartment. So I just kept waiting for the policeman to be like, hey, it's fine. He's probably drunk, like, this happens, whatever. But like, they looked at me and they were like, hey, if you ever see him again, or if he stands in front of your car, you hit him. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, not only did that validate this is scary,
Mm-hmm.
like that the
Hmm.
police are concerned, but like, I'm so far from home. I was not good about talking through things at that point. Now I'm like, let's talk about it,
Yeah.
let's go there. At that point, I just kind of hold it up and like, my parents knew I told them and stuff, but like when I say from that point on, like I was afraid to be in that apartment, like I did not sleep well. And it sounds crazy to say I didn't really know to the extent I was struggling with fear, but I really did. Like it really kind of ruled my life for a long time.
Mhm.
Honestly, into motherhood in ways I didn't really realize. So again, nothing happened. I never saw that person again, but it was the catalyst for fear to hit. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's as we're recording this, our second oldest is moving out tomorrow to go finish 2 years. Um, I mean, it's only a half hour away, but it's a college that's half hour away, and he's gonna be rooming with friends, and that's
mhm,
really it. You can, as a parent, you can do your best to build that foundation, but when they're out on their own, in large part, it has to become their own,
mhm.
and it's their choice what they do with it.
That's
So
right.
it is kind of a scary time, but
It is.
I like how
I
you put that.
remember my mom, so she came and helped me get settled and stuff in my apartment and that sort of thing. And at that point I could sleep till 11, at that point in my life. Now I'm lucky if I make it to 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
But she left me a letter. My mom is the original one with words in our family. Very wise, and probably why I love words and writing and
Hmm.
reading. But she left me a letter when she got up and left that morning. And it was just, it was basically like, hey, this is your own now. Like, I love you, but like, you're going to have to take responsibility of like your faith, and you and Andrew, you are going to have to, like, I can't, be in
Yeah.
control of if you are alone together. We weren't engaged at that point, of course, and so like, you're going to have to take responsibility and decide what you're going to decide. And so it was just very like, there was a lot of trust in that letter, but it was very like intentional and like,
Sure.
hey, do you see this? Like, make an active choice.
Hmm.
That wasn't in my business, but was like very clear, and I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I bought I bought two books that I'm going to give my oldest son tomorrow. He doesn't know it yet, but I bought him a copy of the Screw Tape Letters. And whenever
Hmm.
I give somebody a book or a Bible, I mean, I write inside the cover. You want to make it as personal as possible. You know what I mean? And I wrote
Hmm.
inside that letter. And like when I talk to the young guys that I got Bible study with, these young high school kids, I tell them, I was like, bro, there is a spiritual battle going on, and your heart and your mind is the prize. You may not be able to see this spiritual battle, but look at culture and look at the word of God that we're in right now, bro. You are the prize. And it ain't always going to look like good is this, evil is this. It's this easy, bro. Satan is going to make evil look normal, make it look good.
Hmm.
It's going to be, and you just try and relate that to them like, man, he's coming after you. The world is going to chew you up and spit you out if you don't have a foundation that is built on a relationship with Jesus. And I pray that you don't have to go through. And so, I wrote all this stuff in the Screw Tape Letters. And as you read that, you can really see all the ways, that it's
Hmm.
fiction, but in my mind, bro, that's gotta be how Satan and demons
Yeah.
work, man. They want to make righteousness look weird, and they want to make sin look normal, and they want to keep you distracted, and just all that
Hmm.
stuff. And I got him this other book. A guy was on Focus on the Family a couple weeks ago, and it's supposedly like the best book you could give a kid going off to college. It hits like every single thing that they're going to be confronted with, in like a secular university like Louisiana State or UNI or Iowa State,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like every single topic. And it's just like, maybe your parents got you to church and led you to the Lord, but this is going to be the stuff how to guard yourself against some of the teaching that might be coming at you. This is the moral
Hmm. Hmm.
foundation, the biblical foundation for marriage and relationships, or for creation, or for all this stuff. And it's just, I'm like, bro, he could read one chapter a week. That could be like a devotion. And so wrote a little something in that too, and gonna give it to him tomorrow. So
Yeah.
we'll check
That's
back in like
awesome.
20 years, and we'll see how it all
Yeah.
worked out
Yeah.
if he agrees. Hey, that
Yeah.
was
Send
good,
us
Dad.
that book for when it's our turn.
I hope he says something like you just said about your mom in that letter. I hope he comes back to me later in life and says, "Dad, that was awesome,"
Yeah.
because it did. It all came at me. But so you talk
Hmm.
about that fear, and I mean
Hmm.
that was back in a time where we weren't so much thinking a lot about the guy in the white van or stuff. Stuff happens on college
Hmm.
campuses a little more often, but nowadays we know, bro, you see anything out of place. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Lock your door.
Hmm.
Don't get out your car. Call the cop. Don't even wait. Like, you go to 10 right away. You don't sit around and debate about it. But
That's
you
right.
talked about having that fear. And
Hmm.
in my notes here, you said, fear really started dictating things as you got older and you
Hmm.
didn't even realize it. So let's kind of move into the next
Hmm.
phase, as you get
Yeah.
through college and stuff like that. Let's get into that.
So I'll say fear took root in two different ways in my life. And I love that you were talking about this with in regards to screw tape letters, because not only is he going to try to make sin look good and like, the angel of light, disguise himself as the angel of light, but like
Mhm.
he's also going to make good things look hard or not, maybe not right. And so
Yep.
there are two different ways that I look back and see that, fear came at me in two different regards. So one is how we think of fear. So like how that looked for me. And again, it's funny saying these things out loud that it's like, oh yeah, that's not functioning well. But I mean, you just don't know what you don't know. And at this point, people didn't talk about counseling and they didn't talk about,
Hmm.
I mean, we honestly spiritual warfare a lot. And so that all would come into play later. Well, but like one of the ways is like I would have such a hard time falling asleep in that apartment that I lived in for the rest of the year, that I would pretty much stay awake until like 5 a.m. Sometimes, and then like,
Oh,
sleep hard. And of course, our classes were like 9:30, so I'm getting in a chunk of sleep, but then like maybe nap later. And in college, you can roll off of not a lot of sleep, but like I look back and I'm like, I was probably so deprived and like didn't realize it.
yeah.
And just having, TV on or something, just noise or whatever. Even into like little things like, I got married in college. That would be a couple years later, but even into that, like, this was not like a conscious thought. Like I was not going to go take a shower unless my husband was home. Like I just was not good. Like just little things that you
Hmm.
don't realize. It
Hmm.
wasn't like OCD things. It was just like, I was not going to, you know, function normally with that fear. Now, the other way that I look back, and this has been like taking me longer to see, is how fear came at me on all the good decisions in life. So, I mentioned I grew up being the third kid that was like, I know what I want. I don't care if my siblings are playing that sport. I'm going to play this. That's great for y'all. Not worried, was very sure of my choices, and I honestly liked that about myself. And then I hit college, and all of a sudden, what I thought I wanted to do, I didn't think I wanted to do anymore, and now I don't know. And so that's a very normal crisis for people to go through in
Yeah.
college, and even later in life. That was foreign to me.
Mm.
I had never been unsure. I didn't even know what to do with that, and so learned a lot about discernment, and I'll get into that in a second. But I can remember, driving with my mom at some point. For some reason, she was riding back with me to Baton Rouge somewhere in these years. And in regards to what I wanted to do, she was like, well, Hallie, like, what are your favorite things you've already ever done? Like, what, if you look back, like, where are the things you feel like I love this? And I was like, well, like anytime I was teaching dance, like whether it was, captain of the dance team or whatever, like leadership things. I loved leading devos for younger groups in my youth group in high school and stuff. And then I was like, in college, like doing disciple nows. That's what we called it then. Now everybody's got a fun name for that ministry, but leading those sorts of things, like those were the sorts that like were coming to mind. But like podcasting didn't exist.
Yep.
There was blogging, but that was, not super common for someone in college. Never thought I'd write a book, which the book that I was supposed to write, I can't write till I have kids,
Yep.
And so did not ever think I would stand on stage and speak. So I just couldn't see, there's no way I could have known where God was leading me. And that's, if there's anything I can say to people who are in college, it's like, just try to be faithful.
Sure.
Like he will lead your steps. He will establish your steps if you acknowledge him in all your ways. Like just be faithful where you're at. But so then that kind of led me to be between like education and counseling.
Okay.
And ended up teaching French, for a couple years before I had our oldest son, because that was a need. So that was a long story. However, right before me and my husband were supposed to get married, I started growing so anxious, like in all of this fear and in all of this change and like making big life decisions. I started to wonder, what if this isn't the person? Like we've been together for 4 years. I have no doubt in my mind that I love this person and he's a Christian and all these things. But it was like, did I ever pray? Like our story was so long. You just can be like, did I ever consciously ask? And so I began to like anxiously seek the Lord on that. I can remember sitting up in a different apartment, but in my apartment and just poring over his word and being like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I not living inside your will? And that terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good concern, but it's a bad worry, and so but I didn't tell anyone about it because I didn't want to panic him. And I felt disloyal to say it to anyone else. So I just kept sitting up in my bed and praying about it. Well, you spend a lot of time together. And so one night he's dropping me off. We'd gone to eat or something. And he was like, hey, what's going on? And so I'm like, I don't know how to say this, but I'm worried. I got his permission to tell the story. He was like, I don't care. But I was like, I don't want you to think this is how I feel, but like, I'm worried. Like this has made me anxious, And he was just so calm and so kind. And he was like, that's not what I want. But if you need more time, like, I'm not worried about invitations going out and then that's what we'll do, which felt honestly, probably like even more devastating because I'm like, that's not what I want. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But it just was like, I needed to be able to say that. And so we kind of leave the conversation there. I go inside. Meanwhile, we're like weeks away from the wedding. Like we know where we're going to live. Yeah. So I go to the house where we're going to be moving in after we get married in a couple weeks. And like a couch or something was getting delivered that day. So I had to like sit there at the house. There's no internet, we're getting close to finals. So I've studied all I'm going to study, And I had a smartphone, but it wasn't an iPhone at the time. And so I had the Bible app and I never used it because I always used my physical copy. And so I'm like, I don't have that with me. I'm just in anguish. I'm just going to, read the Bible. Well, I couldn't figure out without Wi-Fi how to flip anywhere in the Bible app. Again, this was not a user-friendly smartphone. And so I'm like, I don't even care. I'll start from page 1. Like, I just need God's word. It doesn't matter what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
So I start reading Genesis 1, I feel like I've read it 1,000 times, But when it got to the part where it said that God was walking and talking with them in the garden,
Yep.
This realization hit me new. And this is why I love that God's word is alive and active. You can read it 1,000 times, but something will jump out to you that you never would have seen until you're where you're at. And I was like, they walked and talked with God in the garden. That is insane. And they were still susceptible to deception. Why would I think, just because I've grown up in the church and because I've sought him as best as I can, that I'm not going to be susceptible? And that is when I learned that both spiritual discernment and spiritual warfare can feel heavy. They can both feel weighty. But what I've learned to distinguish between the two, because we'll be doing this, on this side of heaven for the rest of our lives, is usually when it's spiritual discernment, you know what you're supposed to do. You just might not want to do it. Like there might be that fear of like, is this going to work out?
Hmm.
Lord, are you
Hmm.
sure? But with spiritual warfare, you feel anxious and chaotic and and that's when I was like, oh, we're about to enter into a union that he very much does not want. Like he's not for Christian marriage. You know what I mean? Like the enemy is not for
Hmm.
that. He does not want us to have peace. And so like all that to say, getting back to your point and the fear and all of that is like, yeah, he'll wreak havoc anywhere. Like it can be fear over dark things, but it can also be like, are you sure these good things are right choices? And if you're not walking with the Lord and asking, like, is this you? That can be very confusing.
Sure. Wow, that's good. Oh man, I hope there's I hope young people take that and listen to that and understand, man, that's how real it is. Yeah, he can get in there and make you think something good, something. Do you really? I mean, that's really what he did with Eve. I mean, my goodness. But
Hmm.
oh man, come on. God didn't say you'd die. No, you'll be like him.
Right.
You'll know both good and evil. Well, come on, Eve. You don't want to know evil, but
Yeah.
oh man. I mean, did you guys get married like towards the end of college? Like
So
what?
we got married, I think I said a couple years earlier, but I think we got married after my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
So I was 20 years old, which is
Love it.
wild,
I
but
love it. I love it.
all the time we're like, why did our parents just be like, yeah, that was great, But
Yeah.
honestly, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when people are like, don't get married young. We went and spoke at our college group recently, and that was one of the questions. Like, how do you deal with people that are like, oh, don't get married young? And I'm like, listen, when someone tells you that, they are probably trying to help you to avoid some trauma they've experienced, and
Yeah.
like it's
Yep.
it's out of kindness, like they're saying it out of kindness.
Right.
But you know where you are. Like you seek the Lord only on that. And like we got green flag, like we talked to our parents about it, like we got green flags everywhere. Like it despite all of my wrestling with the Lord, we were walking with him on that.
Yeah.
And and the good thing was I was certain after, 15 years later, never
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
doubted. I'm not saying everybody run out and get married at 20. That's not what I'm saying.
No. No.
But at the same time, like we knew that was the person and like no, we didn't know how we were going to make money. We didn't know, but like you can struggle separately or you can struggle together. Like you can grow separately or you can grow together and like if it's the Lord's timing, he's got it. Like he's going to sort out. You don't have to get all your ducks in a row. And honestly, like yes, we've been through hard things in marriage. And yes, there have been years that are rougher than others, but like there's never been a year that I'm like, this is just so hard or it's not a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah.
And including that first year, everybody says first year is hardest. And it can be. Like I'm not there are plenty of other stories and it doesn't have to be selfishness that causes that year to be hard. But like we just have always had a great time. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that because whatever next year looks like, he's going to be with us there too.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't think we have to be superstitious about saying that up to this point, it's been a blessing,
Sure.
and so anyways, that was kind of our story. But when we moved back to Monroe and I started teaching French actually in undergrad. I still had a semester to go when I started teaching French because there was a need. Dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome there just because, like, I felt like I was still the same age as these high school students when I'm coming in, and like French is not my first language. That was not what I set out to do. But it was good. It was so good. It was good for me to push past a lot of that second guessing that I had gone through. It was kind of refining by fire. Loved the connections that I made with those students, pouring into them, even if it wasn't the Bible, like just being in their lives. Then we had an early miscarriage and I hate to say this, but I had never, it wasn't like my dream growing up to be a mom. Like I always was like, want to be CEO of a company, like
Okay.
that was more like my personality. Like I wanted to do something and,
Sure.
grew up around business and that sort of thing. So like I love that sort of thing. But of course, we wanted to have a baby, we want to start a family. When I had that miscarriage, the Lord used that to grow that desire of like, no, I really want to be a mom. Like it
Yeah.
just wasn't on my radar before then. And that was hard. It it was not as late of a miscarriage as many others. There was not as many years of us waiting to get pregnant, but like when you've been through that heartbreak, like it's just hard. Like you can't really describe it unless you've walked through it. And like it just feels, I walked through a lot of questioning the Lord's favor. Like, why did she get this and not me? Like, did I do something wrong? And of course, that's not how the Lord operates. But like studied David a lot through that time and,
Okay.
really spoke to me. And also, Ecclesiastes spoke to me a lot in that time. But, continued to seek the Lord despite the heartbreak and the waiting that came. Then we had our first son. Such a blessing, just the sweetest. Like he was 5 weeks early, didn't have to go to the NICU. I don't know how. That is just bear die for you. He knows his
Nice.
mind. Yeah. But he's preemie. This is my first baby. Bringing him home was so sweet. It was such an answered prayer, but that didn't protect me from the postpartum feelings that I had. And I
Mm.
think there's also guilt wrapped up. Like I've talked to other moms since that are like, I've prayed for this for so long. How come I'm not appreciating it as much? And to that, I would say, like, you're not you struggling with where you're at. First of all, there's all kinds of hormones
Yeah.
that you can't control. And secondly, like your struggle of this is hard does not negate that you would pick it. Like that is not regret and mourning past seasons are not the same thing. You can mourn that you can't up and go somewhere or that you don't know what you're doing in this season and you don't feel like yourself and still be like, and I'd pick it all day long. And so I want to, not even just moms, anyone that's in that position. Even into that though, like with all of those emotions, I still had fear over a lot of things. Now I have a preemie. Is he going to sleep in the night? I mean,
Yeah.
is he going to keep breathing? Like, all of these things that you can worry about as a new parent became like anxiousness for me. And so, somewhere in his first year, my small group at church on Wednesday nights was like, let's do Priscilla Shire's Armor of God study. And I was like, let's not, I don't want to talk about spiritual warfare. I did not want to do it. I was like, that is going to freak me out. I'm going to be up in the night nursing this baby and be so creeped out.
Yeah.
When I tell you, like, anyone listening, if you've never done the study, and it's been a minute since I've done it because he's 10 years old now, but like, when I tell you, she just brought so much peace and equipping the believer with like, we are covered, like
Yeah.
we have these tools, we have this armor, we have this God, that
Yeah.
goes before us and watches over, it never sleeps. And like, I don't even, that was such a slow, I don't remember how many weeks, somewhere between probably 6 and 8 week study, but like, it wasn't instantaneous, but I look back and I'm like, oh, that was the tipping point. And when I tell you, like, I do not struggle with fear, I mean, he,
Nice.
it honestly, I haven't called it a miracle before, but it is a miracle. Like, I can't change that, but he can,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like, it honestly is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. I love that. I mean, a lot of times we'll read something in the Bible, but you'll know it's God, Jesus, or one of the disciples. They're talking to believers. And so when you read like the armor of God, it's like, man, here's what's available to you to
Mhm.
protect yourself from everything that's going to come at you. But if you haven't even began to put your faith in Jesus yet, like it's not talking to you. It's showing you this is what's available for the Christian, but you
Mhm.
got to come to Jesus first. Like some of this protection, some of this stuff, this is for the believer. For the unbeliever, man, you really want to go at this world on your own power? Doesn't
Mhm.
work out, man. It doesn't work out. So I love that.
Yeah. And to the Christian, like, are you putting on your belt of truth? You have
Right.
it. Are you trying to
Right.
put on your own armor?
Oh,
Like,
that's good.
or
Yeah.
are you at, because I mean, with fear, with anxiety, with worries about future, whatever it is someone's carrying, like you're staring at that all day long.
Yeah.
Like putting on the belt of truth is fixing your eyes on whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is worthy of praise, and like
Hmm.
that takes intentionality, but we don't have to do the work of changing our hearts. Like
Right.
that's what's so wonderful. Is like just put on the belt of truth and like he will do that work in
Yeah.
you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think that's a call for all of us. Hey, maybe we ought to do that study and remind ourselves of that. Because yeah, just because we're in Christ don't mean we're good. No, we're not. We're not. So does the postpartum and I love how you said that. You go, A, there's a lot of hormones and things going on with a woman after, like, you can't even begin
Hmm.
to, and then you got just the mental side of things and then the spiritual side of things. So like, women, moms, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, it's a tough season. And but you said, okay, then so you had some postpartum stuff and you had some of those feelings, and then you end up having, what'd you say, 3.5 kids?
Yeah,
You had
yes,
kids
three.
3.5 and under.
Right, yes. And so that was, we went from not sure if we were able to have kids to like we're out of bedrooms,
Yeah.
and we've been out of bedrooms till now. The boys, yeah, have always shared, but you know, I look back and we've been watching old videos a lot because we just moved out of the house where we brought two of the three babies home. So many sweet memories. You can look back and forget all of the sweet things and the memories and the slow days. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it was such a sweet time, and it was so hard. Like, I mean, I was staying home. My husband worked full time in a different job and was, had to be at work at 7. So you're trying to get two breakfast made and nurse a baby that does not want to wait, and it was a lot. Okay, so leading into our youngest was born in 2019, so a lot. I'm outnumbered. We've gone from playing man-to-man defense to zone defense.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It was, all of that. And so that was a shock. And like the other two are still babies. Like they still needed so much. And so
Hmm.
it was just a lot to me. There was a lot that I learned about not trying to do everything in my own strength in that season, that I'm just now putting into practice. The Lord was trying to teach me then. But it really hit ahead in 2020, when the world closed down here. And I know it was different for people in different areas, but like church was closed down.
Yeah.
My oldest was doing Mother's Day out. That's closed. And we couldn't even, at that point, we didn't know how dangerous it was for people with autoimmune. We have quite a few autoimmune situations in our family, so we weren't going anywhere. And so
Mhm.
I've got 3 kids. My husband's still having to go to work a lot, and we can't even go to the grocery store. Like
Yeah.
it was refining. And so that is where I started writing. I sat down one day. I mean, I have always written, but that's when I started the book. And I sat down one day and started writing to the mom who's exhausted and wondering if she's failing at everything she's doing. Like, and that is just, I'm sure that people can relate to that starting a business or whatever, but when you're staying home and it's all you have and you're giving it your all and you don't know if you're succeeding,
Hmm.
it is just that fear of failure can be all encompassing. And so I started writing that. And at the end of it, I was like, man, I don't know, could be a book. Still couldn't imagine myself doing that. But that became the intro to my book. And that's been edited, thankfully, many times. But, you know, but yeah, it was. And it was just honestly what my book is what I needed to know. I needed to know what a good mom is, what's actually asked and required of us, what's not,
Yeah.
what we've added or society has added to it,
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
depends on us and what does not, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And of course, moms like to hear they're a good mom from their husbands, from their kids, their parents, in-laws, whatever. But we deeply need to hear that from the author of goodness himself.
Yeah.
And so that's really what drove the book.
I love it. I love it. When I decide if I'm going to listen to somebody, whether it's clicking on a podcast or watching an interview on TV, for me, the biggest glaring example was like politics, and it was the
Mhm.
border around the same time. And there would be people in Washington say there's nothing going on at the border. But then I'd watch this one channel and it would show clearly major stuff happening at the border. And I was like, okay, I want to hear from the people with experience. The necktie
Mhm.
does not make you an expert. So when you tell me in our notes that you say that time in your life was a beautiful, refining, and really hard season where I could not avoid the fact that I was insufficient on my own. And that's when I started writing my book to cover topics like mom guilt, self sufficiency versus depending on the Lord, how we were created to be lacking and limited apart from Him, like we need Him. contrary to what most people think, the Bible doesn't say the Lord won't give you more than you can handle. That verse doesn't exist. It says he
Mhm.
won't tempt you in a way that surprises him, and he'll give you a way out, but he absolutely will give you more than you can handle because he wants you to come to him, rely on him. When you say you wrote a book from that space about those things, I'm thinking that's what people want to hear. Authentic, true experience that they don't
Mhm.
need to hear from anything else. That's what they need to hear from. So if you're thinking I might be interested in this book, you're still a good mom. That's the proof right there that this is going to be it. This is authentic experience on paper, and it's probably going to benefit you greatly.
Mhm.
Man, that's good stuff.
Thanks. I love that you said that. That was so shortly into me starting the book, I started going to counseling, and a lot of it was around things of motherhood. And I remember, and again, imposter syndrome was not new to me at this point in my life. And I remember opening up to my husband about it, and he was like, Hallie, like, because he would tell you, like, he struggled with anxiety in the past and, like, has really, like, loves to talk to men about it because he gets it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's learned so much walking with the Lord through it. And also like on the hope of like, hey, it does get so better, you know.
Yeah.
But like he was like, do I want to read a book about anxiety from someone who's never had it, you know? And I
Bingo.
was like, okay, but you know, that's what we do. We want to discount. If I've had a struggle here, then I can't. Because when I tell you every time I had a hard day in motherhood, which was every other day, I quit that book. I mean, you know, because you just are like, I can't, you know, speak
Yeah.
to this. But then, like, when it's someone else, you're like, but I do want to hear from because you get it. You've been in the trenches.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. A common theme somewhere in the last few minutes, what was popping in my head was worry versus concern. And I want to say I just preached on that like a month ago. I was working through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, and we're in chapter 7. So I know it was recently. And it's like it's clear to see worry is gonna like consume you and drag you down. But concern, like that's gonna move you to action, to do
Mm.
something to remedy the situation or to overcome. And I love how you were making that distinction in there somewhere. So I hope people got that.
I don't know if you ever listen to Tim Keller. He's one of my favorites, but he had this quote one time that I mean, it will hit you between the eyes. Like he's basically said that worry is really a form of pride because
Okay.
worry is like saying, I know how the day ought to go, and I'm afraid God won't get it right.
Oh, oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Take it up with Tim. It wasn't me.
Okay. Yeah, I've listened to him. I've
Yeah.
listened to him before. Oh man. Well, another takeaway I had was when you were talking about, I got married at 20, my wife was 19, and I had just come to Jesus at that point. So it was really unsure for us. Kind of the opposite of you guys. Yeah, we were all four young, but you guys like you almost had to like second guess, like, did I even seek the Lord on this? For us, it was like a whirlwind. Like I was doing a 180 in life, and my wife was finally like getting her answer, like, now this guy's gonna treat me right and all this stuff. But my takeaway from that is what you're saying is like seek the Lord first. Like you can be confident. If you sought the Lord, you can be confident, but be
Mm.
faithful, but also be flexible because yeah, things aren't going to go as planned. But
Mm.
don't let the enemy get in there and make you think, oh, just because, something isn't quite right or a bump in the road or a closed door, maybe it was all a mistake from the big. No, not if you sought the Lord first and you
Mhm.
were faithful, but just be flexible. It's life's a bumpy road for sure. I love it.
That's exactly right. I think often, you know, and I don't know if newlyweds, I mean, I didn't realize this at the time, but like most often, whenever you feel like, well, gosh, like, you know, are we compatible at this point? Or was this the right move? Because I want to move here and take this job and you want to do this, or where you
Yeah.
want to work in ministry. And you know, it's like, do you believe in the Lord's sovereignty? Do you actually trust in the Lord's sovereignty? Because, like, if we believe we're here to make his name known and to love him and love people, and you get to run alongside this partner that he's given you, like, he's not going to lead you in two different
No.
directions. He's
No.
not going to call one person to ministry and the other person doesn't have any heart for it. You know, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe it's a not yet, you know, maybe
Sure.
whatever, but like it ultimately is that. And like compatibility, like when you look up the definition, it's the ability to live in harmony, you know. And so it's like that's a choice, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so like in those years where there's bumps and there's things, like the ultimate trust is in the Lord. You know, people are
Yeah.
going to let you down. Even your
Yeah.
favorite person in the world is going
Yeah.
to let you down,
Yeah.
but he's good and faithful.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Everybody in this world's going to let you down. I'm going to let you down. There's one guy that's not going to let you down. Like you need to hang your hat on him, man. Yeah.
Mm.
Especially with the younger people we're talking about, like, bro, think about because I get it. Kids in high school, public school, well, it kind of sounds
Hmm.
like maybe the school you went to too. There were some kids that were probably more acting like public school kids. But when it comes to relationships and we're doing all the wrong stuff, I was like, bro, this is how God wants it to be. You put God in the middle, at the center, at the top, whatever, and it's like a pyramid, and you're both right there with each other. The closer you got, as long as you both are seeking the Lord, you're getting closer to each other. It's gonna work out. Like that whole, I found my soulmate, and then it life didn't work out the way I wanted it to, or I'm not happy. So now you just stop that relationship, find another. No, like you said, compatibility. It's
Mm.
it's work. It's choosing, right? But if you're both seeking the Lord, like that's His optimal recipe for flourishing in a relationship, in a marriage. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's good stuff.
Hey, I've got that touches on the topic of belonging, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that next episode. But yeah, there's a lot in there.
All right. All right. So the book is called "You're Still a Good Mom." It's got a
Mm.
specific audience. I can
Mm.
see, I might as well just buy it and give it to my wife for her birthday or for Christmas or something coming up. Really, you don't even need an occasion. But if you could summarize, how has that journey been,
Mm.
start to finish, for you?
Hmm. I mean, it's just like I said earlier, like I quit that book more times than I worked on it, which is saying something.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll say this, like coming from someone who overanalyzed and still can struggle with that every single decision leading up to that book, when it is God ordained, He's not going to let you quit. If
Hmm.
you continue to seek Him, and we kind of hit on this topic, this is chasing a rabbit for a second, but we hit on this topic earlier, maybe in concern versus worry. I think worry leans a lot more on self-sufficiency and your plans and your strength, and it's not going to go well. I do need to be
Hmm.
worried if I'm in control because
Yep.
it's not going to go well.
Yep.
Um, but concern is taking it to the Lord. And when you look at Job, when you look at John the Baptist, these people who went through hard things, that asked
Hmm.
real questions, that look like doubts, like they were still, I think, to go back to Tim Keller, I think it was one of his professors that was like, how does Job say that in all this Job honored the Lord when he questioned all these things? Like, how is that possible? And he said, well, they were all prayers. And like everybody's going to have doubts. Everybody's going to question, is this what I'm supposed to do? Are my motives right? Am I supposed to word it this way? Should I mention this story? Should I share this part? Whatever the worry is over the next step, should I take this job, marry this person, whatever? You take it to the Lord. Like
Hmm.
that's what's honoring. That's
Hmm.
what faith looks like, which honestly became the message of the book. Like a good mom is not a woman who never fails. It's a woman who returns over and over to the Lord as many times as she needs to. That's the Christian walk.
Amen.
I'm just retelling the gospel in the realm of motherhood. Hopefully that was the goal. And that also your limitations aren't failure. I mean, in writing this and all the times that I quit, all the redemption that I saw the Lord write into my life despite my failures or losing my cool or whatever, or missing out on when I should have said this encouraging thing to my kid or whatever that is, whether you feel like you didn't measure up or you overstepped, your limitations outside of the Lord aren't failure. They're design. We were not meant to live in a world where we do not seek Him. And so it's not weakness to return back to Him every 5 minutes. It should look like dependence on Him 24/7.
Mhm.
And so in all of this writing it, I was working those things out. And so I never thought, I've never felt called to build a platform. That's not,
Really? Okay.
no, that's not, I mean, I, social media is great. I enjoy it as much as the next person. I don't mind sharing things publicly. I'm a very open book, but like when you venture into the publishing world, it opens up a whole new question of like, do I seek to build a platform? I really wrestled over that for a long time in writing the book because every writing thing or advice you get is like you have to have a platform to get a book published and a pretty
Mhm.
large one.
Mhm.
And I really don't. I mean,
Mhm.
in my mind, that was just never like I can't have that goal and have the goal of faithfulness at the same time.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
in our faithfulness, can God build a platform? Absolutely. Look at the ark. Like
Mhm.
that came through his direction to Noah. Like absolutely he can build crazy things that will carry you to the places you
Mhm.
need to be. But to try to build that apart from him just didn't feel right. I couldn't find anywhere in the Bible where that was the thing to do. And so I was like, if this book is meant for one other person, what else would I be doing with my time? I need to know it. I'm going to keep working this out. And it was a kind of a miracle story how how it got published. It was very much, I could not question that it was the Lord at one bit. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to the questioning in college of what I was going to do, I couldn't, never in my life would have thought, you know what, I'll be a writer, or an author, or, podcasting didn't exist.
No.
And that the podcast started because I wanted to get a friend of mine's story out that was starting a ministry. And I thought, I think more people would listen than read, like just in the world that we live in. And so I was like, if I can throw a podcast together, which would be my first guest. That's how it started, like,
Yeah.
and so I look back and like, yes, we can spend our time overanalyzing, but we could just say, okay, Lord, you put this need in front of me. I'm going to meet it. And somebody once said, and I took this to heart, like, never seek to speak to the church at large. If the worldly church needs to hear from you, the Lord will bring it to you. Like you do the ministry that's in front of you.
Yeah.
You do the local thing. You do. Now, the podcast is available for everyone, but my goal was still faithfulness, and does he
Sure.
have to refine that and remind me of that all the time? Yes, of course. But that you just take the next step in front of you and he does the rest.
That's right. That's right. The results are up to him. It's our
That's
call
right.
to be faithful. Results are up to
Yeah.
him. Leave them to him. I love it. Oh man, how can people connect with you on social media or see what you're doing or get the book, all that stuff?
Absolutely. The book is available anywhere you buy books online. So Amazon, Target, Barnes& Noble, any of those places you can order from. I will say that Moody Publishers does a really big sale at least once a year, maybe twice. And so following them on Instagram is helpful because there's a ton of great books and they'll do like 50% off. And so watch for those. I am on social media just under Hallie Dye. And then also the Saltworks has its own account. The Saltworks podcast is anywhere you listen to podcasts. We don't run over the summer. I'm actually doing a social media fast right now. So not a whole lot happening on there, but we can for sure connect in the fall. I'm not hard to find,
Okay. All right. I love it. Guys, the name of the book is You're Still a Good Mom. Every woman in your life who has kids, or maybe a woman, a girl who's about to enter into that phase or contemplating that phase, maybe it'd be a good, just kind of a preemptive strike to get her that book. Go get the book. It'll be a blessing to the woman in your life. I promise you that. So that's going to do it for part one with Hallie Dye of Saltworks Ministries and the author of You're Still a Good Mom. I hope her story and the things that she shared encouraged you, maybe even enlightened you, but probably challenged you a little bit, your way of thinking. Everybody's got a story to tell or an experience to share. You guys know my opinion on that, and that's what we do here. We just let people share what life has been like for them. You want authentic content? This is as real as it gets right here. But this is not the end of her episode. There's going to be a part two. Like always, it's going to be different. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get into some segments. You're really going to get to know her personality, likes, dislikes, her character quirks, things like that. We're going to have some fun. But at the end, we're going to get a little serious. We're going to be talking about homeschooling and the shift in homeschooling. I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, homeschoolers were looked at as weird, different, right? Now, homeschooling has boomed. And the more you look into it, homeschoolers can come out ahead of public school students in a shorter amount of time. So that caught my eye, and we're going to be talking all about that. You don't want to miss it. Be sure and come back. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with family and friends. We're growing every day, so please like, follow, subscribe, share wherever you listen or watch podcasts. Follow our Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more reels, pictures, encouraging stuff, maybe even some behind the scenes stuff. There was a couple bloopers that I'm probably going to edit out of this. Maybe we'll throw them on social media. You never know. If you got questions, comments, ideas, you want some What Is Up merch, email me, whatisappodcast@gmail.com. If you need help or you want to talk deeper about something, maybe something, we're Christians. You want some biblical answers? We'll do the best we can do. We're not perfect. Reach out with your question. We'll respond and help any way that we can. So for me and my guest today, Hallie Dye, author of You're Still a Good Mom, we thank you so much for listening. Lord willing, we'll talk to you on the next one.
Thank you so much for having me, Bubba. It's been a blessing. I can't wait for next week. And for those listening, just take the next faithful step.
Love it. Amen. Amen to that.